Good afternoon, Rotarians, and welcome to our regular Monday meeting. It's a pleasure to host this meeting, and it's hard for me to believe that my year as president is quickly coming to an end. It's been a great time for me, but we'll have more about that later. Let's start off with a reflection from past President Chuck Mann, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance from Daniel Pienta.
It's titled Instructions for a Father as far as how to change a diaper. You spread the diaper in the position of a diamond with you at bat. Then you fold second base down to home and set the baby on the pitcher's mound. First, put first base and third together, bring up home plate and pin the three together. Of course, in case of rain, you got to call the game and start all over again. This is one that I did back in 2015, including that. So if you remember back to 2015, I apologize for the summer rerun. This is called a prayer for fathers. Father, it is your commandment that we should honor our fathers. Hear the prayers we offer you for them. Grant them many years on earth and keep them in health of mind and body. Bless their word in all they do. Give them back 100-fold whatever they have done for us. Inspire them with your love so that one day we may be their comfort and support. And that having enjoyed their affection on earth, we may have the joy of being with them forever in your home in heaven. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Chuck. Danielle?
Wow. There we go. Well, good morning or good afternoon to everyone. Pledge of Allegiance, here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Thank you very much. Hey, Dan?
Yes.
You still there? How do you pronounce your last name?
Pienta.
Pienta. I didn't do too bad.
You nailed it. It's like perfect.
Wow, okay.
Congratulations.
How long have you been a Rotarian?
Since I think February, maybe at some place from there. It was before COVID, so I was at the Christmas, October last year.
Okay,
I can't remember. It seems like a long time, but it wasn't that long ago.
Well, is this your first time at the podium?
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks so much.
Moving along, Craig Finley, are you out there somewhere? If you are, thank you for arranging for Venture Visionary Partners sponsoring us for the entire month of June. And that's very important to us. And so thank you so much, Craig. We have an announcement on polio from Danny Woodcock.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for some time today. Just a real quick update from last Thursday. Actually, it was announced that 68 polio cases in the world exist, and they only exist in Pakistan and Afghanistan. The WHO announced that Nigeria is polio-free. As you know, Rotary and one of our big missions is the eradication of polio. Last year, we brought in Ann Lee Hussey. She was a polio survivor and a lifelong worker towards that goal. She presented to us on World Polio Day ahead of our Axe Out Polio fundraiser. And she had reached out to our International Services Committee a little bit earlier in the month. So we're going to explore how we can help out with that. It's looking like it could be a global grant opportunity, but we'll see. Last year, we were able to raise over $6,000 at the Axe Out Polio event. That helped to vaccinate around 2,000 men, women, and children. And this year, we're going to have to get a little creative with our fundraising efforts. So I hope to look forward to that and welcome any help you might have for us. That's all I got, President Tim. Thank you for the time.
Thank you very much. Hey, was it us that arranged for her to speak to the media, Jerry Anderson, Fred Lefebvre?
I believe so, yep.
So she got a pretty good welcome here at Toledo.
She had a nice press tour and a delicious lunch at Grumpy's. She loved the garbage salad.
Okay. I have another announcement, and this one comes from Ben Hunger. I don't know if he's on today, but he informs me that he's planning on going to the Taipei, Taiwan Rotary International Convention, which is next, I think it's June. And if you move quickly, that means between now and this Friday, you can get tickets for the convention for $315, which is an amazing price. Or you can wait 9 months and pay $515. But if you move quickly and you want to go to Taiwan, I know that Ben and his wife are going to act as host and hostesses. They got lots and lots of family and experience in Taiwan. They'll know what hotels to stay at, what restaurants to go to, and what are the hot spots to be seen. So if you're interested, go on the Rotary website and sign up now. It's going to cost a lot more later. Doug Nickers is with us today, and he is about to introduce our speaker.
It's a real pleasure for me to introduce Alex Mejiritski. Alex was a student in Bowling Green in my laboratories. It's also a sad day because this recognizes the passing of Helen McMaster at 103.5 years old. The McMasters funded programs at Bowling Green that provided fellowships for graduate students. And Alex was one of those McMaster fellows who got research funding at Bowling Green for his study. And Harold McMaster was a major investor in Spectra Group when he first got started. I've known Alex for an awful long time, and we wanted to say that he came to the United States as a citizen of the Soviet Union, and suddenly his country disappeared. So he had to go home and get a passport from the Ukraine where he was born and go to Moscow and get a visa. And he did all of that in 3 weeks and turned around and came back. So that suggested to me that this was a president of the company in making. And that's what he has become as the president of FormLabs, Ohio, Spectra Photopolymers. The company I started with Spectra Group. It was sold in 2017. Alex, if you're there, this is a real pleasure to introduce you to the Rotary Club of Toledo. And I want to say one more thing, and that is that Alex's son, Aaron, won the regional spelling bee in 2019. So he was one of those regional winners that was at the event in May of 2019 in which the dictionary ran out of words. So English words.
Thank you, everybody, for thanks for the Rotary Club for inviting me to give a talk today, and thank you, Dr. Neckers, for the kind introduction. It's my pleasure to speak with you today over Zoom. Zoom looks kind of strange, but I'm going to try my best. I hope all the slides show up and all my videos play. So what I want to talk about today is a little bit of a history of our company. Something you probably don't know exists in our area, introduce a little bit of technology, and explain how we use this technology in the time of a COVID crisis. 2 words about me. As Doug said already, I was born and raised in Kiev, Ukraine, and then I went to get my undergraduate at Mendeleev Institute of Chemical Technology. I got out of that in '92. The country was kind of in crumbling state, so my wife convinced me to pursue a graduate degree someplace where was not Soviet Union, and by small chance I landed at BGSU for 5 years, where I got my PhD with Dr. Doug Neckers, and I've been with Spectra pretty much ever since. Going through the path of just an industrial postdoc to research chemist to VP research and the president eventually. And I'm continuing on after our company was acquired, and I'll talk about that a little later. So Spectra was founded in 1990 as Spectra Group Limited, and that's why you see all over the logos at the bottom. I just wanted to show that as a manifestation of history. And we were founded as a spin-off from the labs of Dr. Neckers from our Center for Photochemical Sciences at BGSU. And the first business that Doug and his colleagues conceived, I wasn't there, so I can't claim any credit to that, was to take a CAT scan or an MRI file, scan it, and print the 3D model for surgical planning out of that using the technology that's called stereolithography. You probably see that on the news all the time and read articles about it in the newspaper, but I want to stress that in 1990, that what really was ahead of its time and pretty visionary. How Spectra Group continued is that it was a small business, so it needed to survive time and again. Like a good cat, we had 9 lives plus probably. And what we found, because the medical imaging was ahead of its time, is we continued our exploring opportunities in the field of photopolymers, which were materials to do those models. And slowly we have evolved in a high-tech specialized chemistry business where where our core expertise was the photochemistry, some R&D, and we were to take the research that we've done, converted it into commercial opportunities, and eventually became a manufacturer of certain type of materials, which are, again, photopolymers, formulated products, and that included 3D printed materials as well. Just to give you an example, photopolymers may be a fancy word, but actually it's pretty pervasive in some aspects that you probably have encountered within your life. We have worked with projects wide ranging, from making coatings on the inside of a nuclear submarine, something a pretty big object, obviously, to something as small as working with jewelers to make photopolymers used in the casting of jewelry pieces. We worked with optometrists making photopolymers used in photocasting of prescription eyewear. There are products of ours that are used in water-based UV floor coatings for fast refinishing of flooring in shops, warehouses, storage facilities, and things like that. We have products like adhesives for example, like polypropylene pouch bags that are used in your mail-in promotional type literature. And we also make a whole bunch of auxiliary things for the chemistry, things that indicate light exposure, for example, as in our color change printed products. But the more on the subject of 3D printing, I just wanted to show this slide because it's pretty seminal, and every self-respected 3D printing chemist shows it. But instead of describing how photopolymerization for stereolithography works, I thought I'd play you a few videos, and maybe that would become self-explanatory rather than me blab around it and providing some difficult explanations.
All 3D printing technologies create solid parts from 3D models layer by layer. Among them is SLA. SLA stands for stereolithography, a 3D printing process that uses a UV laser to cure liquid resin into hardened plastic. Upside down or inverted stereolithography is the most common SLA system. Depending on the machine, resin is either poured into a tank by a user or dispensed automatically from a cartridge. At the beginning of the print, a build platform is lowered into the resin, leaving only a thin layer of liquid in between the platform and the bottom of the tank. Galvanometers direct the UV laser through a transparent window at the bottom of the resin tank, drawing a cross-section of the 3D model and selectively hardening the material. The print is built in consecutive layers, each less than 100 microns thick. When a layer is complete, the part is peeled from the bottom of the tank, letting fresh resin flow beneath, and the platform is lowered once again. Originally developed in the 80s, SLA was confined to large industrial machines until recently. Today, desktop stereolithography offers affordable, high-resolution 3D printing that fits conveniently in your workspace. SLA allows for the use of a wide range of materials with diverse physical properties. Whether you're an engineer, product designer, sculptor, jeweler, or dentist, there's a material for your application.
Okay, so now that you've seen how the 3D printer operates, and for fair disclosure, this video is put together by my parent company, FormLabs. Talk about them later. These are machines that basically fit on your desktop. They don't have a big footprint, and at the same time, they have a power, resolution capabilities, and material capabilities to deliver something that 20 years ago only engineers at Ford could afford. So now we're truly in the era of 3D printing being available to the masses, and mass customization that 3D printing is capable of is upon us. So where does Spectra come in this equation? If you watched the video, you saw that there's a resin being dispensed and the word used cartridge. So we are that liquid that comes out of the cartridge box that is delivered into 3D printer, out of which you build the piece. So in other words, we are consumables to the FormLabs printers. If you have a Hewlett-Packard in your office or wherever you're sitting right now, you have to have two things to be able to print two-dimensionally: the printer itself and the ink cartridge that you load in. So we are that cartridge to the FormLabs Hewlett-Packard machine. We're basically a razor blade to the razor. Spectra, FormLabs was a startup out of Somerville, Massachusetts, founded by 3 MIT graduates, and they were responsible for the hardware, the software, the sales, the introduction of the machine. But they didn't have any chemists, and specifically, they didn't have any photopolymer chemists. So we were their first photopolymer group. We were the R&D to their machines, created the first few sets of materials, and then launched them and commercialized them somewhere around 2012. And if you look up Kickstarter on Wikipedia, FormLabs still hold the distinction for the highest record-setting amount of dollars that they were able to collect on the Kickstarter campaign. So that happened somewhere around 2013, and they've been through several technology incarnations since. And in 2017, they have decided that it's much better, rather than contract with us to get our materials into the cartridges from us, is basically to buy out Spectra Group and convert it into the wholly owned subsidiary of theirs. With that, they have proceeded and bought about 95% of the assets of ours, and Spectra Group was structured as 3 LLCs at the time. So they have landed on buying the Photopolymers LLC with all of the resins, adhesives, coatings, color change products, and photo initiators that I mentioned earlier. And they have renamed us as FormLabs Ohio, although I insisted, because people knew us as 20 years as Spectra, that we are doing business as Spectra Photopolymers as well. And with that came the final change of logo that I've illustrated on the bottom. We are located on State Route 795 with the postal zip of Millbury, Ohio, but right across from Lake High School, where tornado wiped out the high school, and we got spared by probably the length of 2 football fields away from that massive tornado. We sit on about 30,000+ square feet. And as of April this year, we employ about 34 people. Few pictures. This is how manufacturing of photopolymers on a large scale looks like, where you take these huge vats, which we call the reactor, and you blend raw materials in there that when combined and put out into the 3D printer tray and then exposed with that laser, harden up and give you properties from gray to white, from hard, soft, elastic, and so on and so forth. In middle of 2018, we have invested about $1 million from a parent company to build out the facility to create what's called a clean room under ISO 8 standards, which allows us now to be able to manufacture some materials that are biocompatible, because the spread of 3D printing into areas of digital dentistry and digital audiology, where your printed parts have contact with humans, with skin, sometimes going into the oral cavity. That is the super fast, high growing area of 3D printing, and FormLabs obviously wanted us to participate in that. And that was the reason to build this clean room facility. We also have a print farm where about 200+ printers are sitting, where we can print samples of all kinds of resins we produce. And we can also use that in order to fast mobilize to print a whole large number of small parts. And that is exactly what we had to do when the COVID crisis hit, when businesses went into lockdown and people in areas that dentistry or jewelry or architectural design engineering weren't using our resins as much. So the overall business went down, yet at the same time, the thought process was, okay, what can we do to do two things: make the business survive the rough patch for as long as it lasts, and also try and help society in the time of need. And out of that came the idea to print nasopharyngeal swabs, these long sticks. They stick in people's noses to collect the sample to see if the person is infected with COVID.
Hospitals came to embrace us and start using us over the last couple of years, and those same hospitals started calling us, asking how we could support them.
We are FormLabs, and we believe it's during challenging moments like the one we're all going through right now that human ingenuity and the spirit of collaboration find their most fertile ground, allowing all of us as one people to work together to push through, push forward, and thrive.
Some companies are already making face shields, test swabs, and medical gowns. FormLabs in Somerville is 3D printing diagnostic swabs.
And there's a company called FormLabs, and I found out yesterday they're capable of producing 1 million swabs a week with these 3D printers.
Ohio State then started working with 3D manufacturing company FormLabs in Toledo. Very soon, the first order of 15,000 3D printed swabs for COVID-19 test kits will be delivered to be shared in partnership with our Department of Health, allowing more people to be tested.
That's why we would like to thank our thousands of users, partners, and friends for the incredible hard work, dedication, and personal sacrifices that have been and will continue to be made, helping make the world a healthier and safer place in the fight against this global pandemic.
Okay, so I'm very proud to say that a lot of those videos were made in this facility in Toledo area in Millbury, Ohio, where we have printed the NP nasopharyngeal swabs and delivered them all over the place. the story came out that two big health groups, one USF Health in Tampa, Florida, and the other Northwell Health, which is the biggest health system in the state of New York, created designs that took the sticks that only two companies in the world manufacture. One is Copan in Italy, right in the area in Italy that was severely affected by the pandemic, so they were offline. And the company called Puritan, which is in rural area state of Maine. And they were unable to deliver the number of swabs needed for to conduct the wide-scale testing. So people at USF Health and Northwell Health looked at those swabs that they knew how to use, and using CAD software designed swabs that could be 3D printed totally out of plastic on FormLabs printers, and then made those designs open and available to the public. We have taken those designs, and so this is the top of the head of the swab. So you can see that instead of the flocked rayon fibers, these things have like tiny little pimples, little dots that when inserted into the nasopharyngeal cavity, they can still twist and turn and select enough of the sample that can be analyzed on PCR technique, not interfere with the reagent, and at the same time deliver the accurate diagnostic results. As I told you earlier, we have the clean room facility in which we manufacture resins that are used for the dentistry. Therefore, we were pretty much uniquely qualified as the vertically integrated supplier to print these swabs out of the resin, which we call surgical guide, which is used to align the direction of the implant. This material has been thoroughly tested before for dentistry, and it's non-cytotoxic, not a sensitizer, not irritating, and complies with the full ISO specification. So we were able to take the design, print them, this design on the FormLabs printers in the print farm that we have 200 of, and use the material that we normally would manufacture for dentistry and convert it to manufacture swabs. So we would take this everything from the design standpoint to the material manufacturing to eventual printing and actually packaging in our facility using local workforce, which we were able to mobilize on a part-time basis. And through months of May, we have delivered, we have printed about 750,000 of swabs, and we have distributed through the months of May about half of that. And the rest is still at medical distribution companies, printed, packaged, and ready to go. All they need is a final sterilization step. They're single packed by us, so they can be sterilized and used pretty much immediately in hospitals. We have counted numerous hospitals in both USF and Northwell system, some VA facilities, hospitals in areas ranging from state of Kansas to all over Ohio. As Governor DeWine mentioned, we have delivered originally 15,000, which we have duplicated several times. So they probably took close to 50,000 swabs in Ohio from us. And so I was really, really proud of the effort. It took a lot of hard days of work, but we were able to pull it together. And this is what some people at Northwell said and Ohio Wexner Medical Center, that these are very capable pieces. They perform comparably or better than the traditional swabs in all the test cases. They can reliably detect viral RNA. So they're fully capable. What we found out though, is whether society, whether it's ready for 3D printed swabs, probably not yet. And as the federal government moved on to invest $75 million in traditional swab maker Puritan that I mentioned, they are from rural Maine. They are gonna They are going to build another second facility, and I wish them a lot of luck, and I hope we don't have to print 3D printed swabs anymore, and the traditional swab takes over, and the testing is at the scale where it actually needs to be. Meanwhile, I thought I'd use the last 5 minutes remaining to me, just play a couple of videos that what does a 3D printed material companies to do. We continue to invent and we continue making impact.
The possibilities of 3D printing in dentistry is limitless. In dentistry right now, digital technology is really exciting. Gone are the days of the old-fashioned, gooey, messy impression. Having a 3D printer in my practice has literally changed everything I do. I can do a host of different things with it, including making my own bleaching trays, bite guards, or even surgical guides. What I do is I scan a patient's teeth, and with that digital scan, I can output an STL file. With an in-office 3D printer, I can fabricate my own surgical guides. Where before, I used to have to send this out to the laboratory, wait 2 to 3 weeks, and pay hundreds of dollars. And now I can print out a model within about an hour. I create a vacuum template that goes over the top of those sleeves. When I take my instruments and start drilling through here, I've married the precision of 3D planning with 3D printing. I can practice an actual surgical procedure on that 3D printed model. So that way when I go to the mouth, I've already done it once. The amazing thing is that we can take a technology like an in-office 3D printer and it makes our tasks easier, but it won't make us change what we do.
And this final story personally touches my heart. So I always like to introduce how we were able to help.
Nick was born 1 month before due date. Because of difficulties during the birth, he suffered severe brain damage. When we left the hospital, the staff there said that we will be happy if Nick ever sit by himself.
When he was trying to walk, it was really hard for him. His feet was really in bad position. If he will walk longer in this position, he will injure the bones and joints.
Nick conditions needs that overpronation, that going mid-arch is going too much in because his muscles are too soft.
Petra has a lot of patients that overgrow their orthoses. Almost every solution that she showed me needed to be corrected after the first design. It's not comfortable, it causes skin irritation. The patients cannot use their right shoe size. When she finally says also the price of the suggested solution, I was okay, this is not right. She always tried to push similar products into one box, and I didn't want that my son is in one of the boxes. I didn't have the solution at that time. I just knew that I can do better. If you need to create something for yourself, I don't think there is a second option to 3D printing currently. When he put the orthosis on, it was, oh, I feel comfortable, I feel stabilized, I feel confident. And it was, 2-3 days and he was walking.
After 4 or 5 months he wearing it, he started to be faster and faster. He actually started to dance.
Currently he's using his 4th different version of orthosis. If he continues to improve like that, I think the 5th one will not be needed anymore.
3D printing, you can say here it's 4 millimeters and here it's 1.75 millimeters. In terms of mechanics, this is great news. In the moment we are testing with several patients with different pathologies, with the quite different age.
At the current industry, is, you know, still built upon 50-year-old technology. Somebody needs to make a new pathway to present an alternative. An orthosis should be built for a person. I really see this taking off because it has so many advantages that you cannot just push this technology on the side. You have to embrace it.
So just one final slide. Basically, the last story showed how the father in Slovenia was able to use FormLabs machines to make the system of orthotic pieces. Luckily, he's an engineer, for his son, and help his son walk. But the final slide is talking about mass customization. We have about, what, 7.5 billion bodies in this world, and anywhere from dentistry to audiology to glasses to sleep apnea masks, and then more vain type of things like clothing and jewelry, things like needed like footwear. There's an opportunity to invent and provide help for people, which is what FormLabs in the business of doing. Their mission is anybody should be able to make anything, and we at Spectra are supporting that the best we can with our materials. I hope everybody was able to hear me well, and I left about, what, 5 minutes for questions.
Excellent. Alex, thank you very much. So if anybody has any questions, if you go ahead and raise your hand and we'll call on people and see what we can come up with. Or anyone?
Doug Necker has raised his hand, but not electronically.
Oh, okay. Oh, excellent. Doug, go ahead.
All right. Okay?
Yep.
First off, that was a really great presentation, Alex. You really have done from day one to day X a very, very good job. Manufacturing with 200 stereolithography machines is no mean technique, and to get that set up to make 1 million swabs is pretty impressive. I want to comment about one thing that has happened just very recently, and that is that we've gotten, my own self and my student have gotten CAT scans of COVID patients. So we've printed CAT scans of patients that have had COVID virus. And I just had a conversation with Chris Cooper this morning about getting CAT scans of patients that have, quote, recovered, unquote. I'm just of the opinion that there's substantial damage to the lungs of those patients. And I think the more information we can get out about those kinds of difficulties and those kinds of future medical problems at this stage, the better we will be as a nation in dealing with things like staying away from any of these viruses, masks, gloves, whatever, to try and protect oneself until hopefully a vaccine comes along. But as you can see from Alex's talk, 3D printing has gone from just a big manufacturing capability to something that's desktop and in the laboratory of, and in the office of a lot of people, and who knows where it's going to go from here. And that's mainly because guys like Alex and his colleagues have made it through a stereolithography of printing technology that lots of people can use. So again, Alex, thanks a lot, and I'm hoping that some others will have some questions about uses themselves.
Thanks, Doug. Janina, let's go to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say how exciting this is to know that this technology is right here in our region. And my question is, have you been able to get any assistance from either state or regional business development groups to get the word out that this capability for mass customization, is right here?
It's an excellent question. Thank you for the assist. As soon as we knew we had to manufacture things locally and a lot, I reached out to people that I talked to at RGP, to Jobs Ohio Regional Office, to Wood County Economic Commission. And some of them were able to help mainly with an advices as to where to go and how to talk to some possible grant opportunities, how to be able to support our manufacturing. Things were probably moving in real time, maybe a little bit too fast. So because it was, okay, well, probably talk to this group, and at the same time, when can you deliver first 100,000? Normally this process probably in good days should have taken 6 to 12 months to set up, and we had maybe, I don't know, 6 days. So we did not probably take advantage in full of what we were able, what I should have been able to explore. So we brought in things haphazardly and kind of started, but now there is what's called an Ohio PPE retooling program, where they're talking about in preparation for possible second wave to allow companies to manufacture PPE. And swabs are not technically PPE, right? But they're probably just as important part in fighting COVID.
Yeah.
So they're talking to the manufacturers like us as to what it is that we would need to actually keep this capability here. And rather than dismantle everything that we put together, actually keep it in place, continue to route some of our resin product towards the swabs rather than to dentistry. Now that dentistry opens up, you know, we trying to feed our bigger customers, obviously our regular customers. So I have applied for the Ohio PPE retooling program, and based on the outcomes, we will either keep it or put it in the mothballs and put it away, but try to keep it for quick and fast unfolding and dispatch. Before COVID, the RGP people visited us, and we are the recipient of a Jobs Ohio grant that dates to the early end of 17, early 18, where they helped us pay for some of the equipment for the manufacturing platform, the mezzanine that we built out on the facility. And we were on track to actually do very well to create 20 plus jobs and do all of that. Now with COVID, we probably would have to adjust, but maybe we can still deliver even now. Mm-hmm. We had a very high burst, but short term in the hands brought in, we had 50 people in the facility doing all the packaging just a month ago. So I hope we can continue, you know, working with those organizations. So Ohio PPE retooling and Jobs Ohio, we go to those wells. So I hope they are aware. They always had an open invitation to visit. Now, give it another month and maybe I would invite them again so they can see how it was done. But yes, they have seen it.
Yeah, that's great.
Thanks, Janina. Okay, so we're going to roll the dice on this one. We've got a question from somebody who has the initials RLA. So RLA, whoever you are.
Yeah, that's me, Travis. It's Rick Arnold. Yeah, isn't my picture up there?
I couldn't find it on here, so I couldn't see who it was. I apologize.
Well, I'm a mystery questioner then. But well, thank you, Alex. The question, I was just trying to follow a little bit on the swab. It sounds like you've manufactured 750,000. Travis, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you've manufactured 750,000 and shipped 350. And there was a story, or there's a main group that is going to be building a factory. But I was just struck. I was wondering, is the slowdown on you, because we're still in the very early stages of this thing. Is the slowdown on the use of the swab because it's a little more uncomfortable? And if it is more uncomfortable because it's, because of the resins that are used, are you able to create 3D products where you actually have two different types of resins used within one product? So you might have a softer, if you will, resin for the tip that would go in the nose, and then something that was a little firmer for the handle.
Thank you. I understand your question completely. Again, if we had the time to prepare and do whatever we need to do it right. Okay, yes, we would have probably sampled it out of a harder, softer resin. The key is we had to do it out of the biocompatible resin, so we didn't have to go through a whole bunch of FDA testing. So we picked the resin that had all of that testing, and that's why it was a harder product, because it's a surgery guide for the teeth. Some of the issues, to be very honest, okay, that we would have is we are not set up as a sterilizing facility. So we had to ship our swabs to sterilize. And when we're doing these Walmart drive-by parking lot testing, they don't have a sterilization unit there, right? So we are able to work with hospitals, but not with those. And that's why our swab is a little bit limited acceptance there, because we don't sterilize and provide non-sterile. So we rely on facilities that can do it for themselves. The labs, LabCorp and Quest and so on, they are so used to deal with the traditional swab. They want it to break just perfectly. It will take them to qualify 3D printed swab a while as well. So all these big places like New York City that contract with LabCorp to process their millions of tests, they want to do a traditional swab. And then politically, it's kind of simpler to build a $75 million plant that will do you the same over and over again, something that we know, than try to promote the new technology that kind of sort of there, that maybe competes, but doesn't have, you know, all of the things. So because government cannot give us a commitment, and the businesses on the lab side cannot give us commitment that they would use the swab going forward, the 3D printed, we are not at this point investing into the resin research to find a softer, milder resin, which is also biocompatible, to be able to make a comfort a little bit better for the customer. We can, but because we are not guaranteed that there will be use of 3D printed swabs 6 months from now, after we are able to qualify the soft resin, we are not pursuing it, but we can. So it's a balance between how good of a citizen you need to be for society versus where you put your business effort in order to deliver the product that's going to be used everywhere. So we have to kind of juggle. And because I'm a wholly owned subsidiary, I have to listen to what my headquarters says. And even though if I wanted to do research on the softer resin, they tell me, well, we'll let you know if we have a business commitment for 5 million swabs. So thank you, 3/4 million. But for now, let's freeze this effort, put it on hold, and wait what happens, which is exactly what we do every single time, right? And then it will hit in October again, and they will call us and say, can you print in something again? And we probably would go to the same resin. But thank you for your question.
Excellent. I think we have time for one more, so I'm going to go to Chuck Stocking. Chuck, you are unmuted. I think you are. Maybe. There we go.
How's that? So, Alex, you're a perfect example of the value to our country of making it possible for really bright technology-based individuals to come here, study, and settle down. What advice would you have for us as the practical steps to make that happen? And have you been able to attract additional talent into Spectra?
Thank you for the question. We are always trying to attract additional talent into Spectra, but also my parent company, FormLabs, is trying to attract business talent in Boston headquarters. We need it in both places. Their company is incredibly diverse. They have people from all over the place. Our company was diverse too. Just before COVID, we're a little bit less because some people left us. I would, again, trying to not to be political here, okay, but I would say if people are here trying to get PhD in STEM, okay, they're obviously talented, driven. They wouldn't come over to do something less, you know, than to contribute in the field. I would try and think that instead of making life difficult for them was removing the practical training program, was shortening H-1B visas where they can at least have a runway of 12, 29 months or 3 years in order to see how they fit into this society, and they have to scramble with their plans prior to, so their last year of research is all worries about how do they get a job, how they're allowed to stay, and so on, so they can actually be productive in their research, and then have a chance of practice in some companies, and then truly and fully evaluated. And I would offer them green cards so they can stay here if they have gone through, you know, all these rigors and indeed prove themselves useful, you know, to our society. I think the evaluators of that program should be actually, should listen to guys like me, where we can help to separate you know, those who take advantage of the program rather than who actually are driven to stay. And I think there more investment in people who are interested in STEM and can deliver should something that definitely need to be looked at rather than curtailed.
Excellent. Thank you, Tim. I'm going to turn it back to you.
Thank you very much, Alex. That's a great presentation you just made. You're doing some very interesting stuff out there, and I'm sorry that we're cutting off the questions, but it's an indicator of how important your subject is. But I've got 4 questions here, and I'm going to pick one because I'd like to hear what you have to say. To what extent do you think your company is doing standby engineering? For example, you know, it looks like the country needed many ventilators very fast, but probably doesn't want to keep that same high technology sitting on a shelf somewhere. It's amazing how fast you scaled up to do what you're doing. I wonder if you had been properly prepped for ventilator parts, for instance, or anything else. If you could just have that stuff, the engineering on a computer somewhere and just step in and do the work. Do you want to speak to that?
Yep. 3D printing is very uniquely positioned for the on-demand manufacturing because you don't need to prepare the injection mold and do all of that. As a matter of fact, our parent company, if you go on their website and read their COVID response, they have printed ventilators, they have printed masks that go into PPE with the masks on. It's just, so they asked me, Alex, do you want Ohio to focus on the swabs or be jack of all trades and print all kinds of parts? And once you're streamlined, you know, you just want to go with the swabs. But we've had orders sent here from VA facility to print me several hundred ventilators to be delivered in 5 days. We didn't print ventilators per se, okay, but we printed the tubes that would separate one ventilator to go into 2 patients. So it's called a T-tube. So you turn 1 for 2, basically. So I can't claim I'm GE or I'm Ford Motor Company to make a ventilator machine, but we are enabling how to make it, you know, work better. So a small run of plastic parts that mimic certain properties that built to certain design with a certain precision is an absolute forte of 3D printing, additive manufacturing technology. And I could go on and tell you stories pre-COVID and during COVID as to how my parent company is able to address it, from shoes to ventilators to swabs. So it's a very unique position, and specifically FormLabs technology. When you have a $5,000 printer that fits on your desktop, and the biggest size that you probably print is like a human head size, give or take, right, part, then it really makes an impactful, it makes an impact on what engineers and designers are able to get out of this technology.
Wow, thank you very much for the presentation. It seems like exciting technology, and I'm so glad that it's here in Northwest Ohio and that you're part of it. For thank you and recognition of your presentation today, we're going to do two things. One is we're going to give you a book on the history of Toledo and this area. And I think you're in the process of changing that history with what you're doing right now. So thank you for that. And the second thing that we will do is we will make a contribution in your name, Alex, to our Polio Plus Fund. So you heard a presentation that polio only exists in Pakistan and Afghanistan right now. We have every intention of getting rid of it there, and you've played a part in that. You've saved some lives today.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Kathy Tate, are you there somewhere?
So I just want to say hello to everyone. And I want to remind everyone, which I'll do frequently for the next week or so, these gold forms, the response form on your dues. Thank you to all of those who have sent theirs in. I've got about 39% responses, and this is the morning mail, which I haven't opened yet. So we might be up to 50%. Please send those in, because what I'm doing is I'm tracking a list so that this afternoon, after I get all of these entered, anyone that I don't have, according to my records, that you've sent this in, you will receive an email reminder from me. If you've already sent me an email and I've misplaced it, shoot me another one, please, and I apologize in advance. I'll do the same thing again Friday, and we'll do it one more time on Monday. And just a reminder, the reasoning is just so we can be clear on what our budget is moving forward in this particular year, and also so that we can inform Rotary International no later than the end of day on June 30th, because our club, all clubs, pay dues to Rotary International based on how many members we show in the club. So it's always important, but this year, as I'm sure you all understand, we're really trying to fine tune our numbers. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate that. I understand that Red Skelton couldn't make it today, and so we've got a fallback position, and that is past President Chuck Mann for Chuck's Chuckles. So
a while back, someone sent me a collection of actual letters that children had written to God. Here are 7 excerpts from those letters. Dear God, in school they told us what you do. Who does it when you are on vacation? Dear God, I read the Bible. What does begat mean? No one will tell me. Love, Allison. From Anita, dear God, is it true that my father won't get into heaven if he uses his bowling words in the house? From Darla, dear God, did you really mean do unto others as they do unto you? Because if you did, then I'm really going to fix my brother. From Tom, dear God, why is Sunday school on Sunday? I thought it was supposed to be our day of rest. From Larry, dear God, maybe Cain and Abel would not kill each other so much if they had their own rooms. It works with my brother. And finally, dear God, this is from Mickey. Dear God, if you watch me in church on Sunday, I'll show you my new shoes. President Tim.
thank you very much. I appreciate it as always, Chuck. June 29th, we have our next meeting. Our speaker is going to be Adam Levine from the Toledo Museum of Art. And with that, we are adjourned.